When a single volcano grounded 100,000 flights, the day modern civilization stood still. What if I told you that a volcano with an unpronounceable name shut down the entire European aviation system for 6 days, stranded 10 million passengers, and cost the global economy $5 billion? Not because of massive destruction or loss of life, but because of something as simple as microscopic glass particles floating in the air. This is the story of how Eyjafjallajökull proved that our hyper-connected world hangs by threads far more fragile than we ever imagined. The deception of a moderate eruption. Picture this, April 14th, 2010. It's a quiet spring evening across Europe. Business travelers are boarding flights home, families are planning vacations, and cargo planes are moving the goods that keep our global economy running. Then a volcano in Iceland, a country most people couldn't locate on a map, changes everything. Here's what the media won't tell you. Eyjafjallajökull wasn't even that powerful. Scientists classified it as a moderate eruption, rating only a 4 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index. Compare that to Mount St. Helens at 5, or the catastrophic Tambora eruption of 1815 at 7. By volcanic standards, this was barely a sneeze. But here's the terrifying truth scientists recently discovered. The most devastating eruptions aren't always the biggest ones. They're the ones that happen in exactly the wrong place, at exactly the wrong time, with exactly the wrong conditions. Eyjafjallajökull was buried under 200 meters of glacial ice. When the magma hit that ice, it created something far more dangerous than lava flows or even massive explosions. It created billions of microscopic glass shards, each one sharp enough to sandblast a jet engine to death at 30,000 feet. Engagement prompt. Before I tell you what happened next, think about the last time you flew somewhere. Now imagine being told that every airport in Europe, every single one, was closed indefinitely. Keep that feeling in mind. The 6 days that broke the world. The ash plume from Eyjafjallajökull shot 9 kilometers into the atmosphere, directly into the path of the jet stream. But here's the part that transformed a regional event into a global catastrophe. A massive, high-pressure system parked itself over the North Atlantic like a conveyor belt, carrying those microscopic glass particles in a steady stream from Iceland, southeast across the busiest airspace in the world. April 15th, flights begin to cancel across northern Europe. April 16th, London Heathrow, the world's second busiest airport, goes silent. April 17th, the closure spreads like a disease across the continent. April 18th, peak chaos. 80% of European flights grounded. The numbers are staggering. 107,000 flights canceled over 8 days. 10 million passengers stranded. 20 countries closing their airspace simultaneously. The largest shutdown since World War II. But here's the surprising truth that should terrify you. The physical eruption killed 3 people. The communication and transportation breakdown affected hundreds of millions. Modern civilization didn't collapse from the volcano itself. It collapsed from our total dependence on systems we'd never imagined could fail. Children were crying in airports, not from fear of the volcano, but from being separated from parents on different continents. Business executives were hitchhiking across Europe like refugees. The President of the United States couldn't fly to Poland for a funeral. The most powerful people in the world were suddenly as helpless as everyone else. Prediction moment. Here's a question that will haunt you. If this moderate eruption could shut down modern transportation, what happens when a truly massive one hits? We'll come back to that nightmare scenario. The invisible chains that broke. While millions of travelers were stranded, something even more devastating was happening behind the scenes. The global, just-in-time economy, the invisible network that delivers the exact parts needed for production at the exact moment they're needed, was hemorrhaging. Picture this. A Nissan factory in Japan shuts down because they can't receive a single pneumatic sensor manufactured in Ireland. BMW halts production across Germany for want of components that fit in your pocket. The most advanced manufacturing systems in human history grinding to a halt for lack of parts that cost less than your morning coffee. Scientists recently discovered that we'd traded resilience for efficiency. Our supply chains had become so optimized, so perfect, that they had zero slack, no backup, no buffer. One disruption, just one, and the whole system revealed itself to be catastrophically brittle. But the human cost was even more heartbreaking. In Kenya, millions of fresh flowers rotted in warehouses because they couldn't reach European markets. Agricultural workers were laid off by the thousands. A volcano in Iceland was destroying livelihoods in Africa. That's how connected our world had become. Experience sharing. Drop a comment if you've ever felt truly cut off from someone you love. Now imagine that isolation lasting for over a week, not knowing when you'd see them again. All because of invisible particles floating in the air thousands of miles away. The silver lining hidden in the ash cloud. Here's the contrarian insight that will change how you see this disaster. Eyjafjallajökull didn't break the system. It revealed that the system was already broken. And that revelation forced the world to build something better. Before 2010, aviation authorities operated on a simple principle: zero tolerance for volcanic ash. Any ash, anywhere, meant grounding all flights, period. This binary thinking worked fine for small, localized eruptions that planes could simply fly around. But when faced with a continent-wide ash cloud, this inflexible approach became catastrophically unsuitable. The crisis forced a paradigm shift. Aviation authorities abandoned their all-or-nothing mentality and developed sophisticated, quantitative risk assessment. They established ash concentration thresholds, specific measurements of how much ash is actually dangerous versus merely detectable. Airlines could now make informed decisions based on real data rather than blanket prohibitions. The proof? Just 1 year later, when Iceland's most active volcano, Grímsvötn, erupted with significantly more explosive power than Eyjafjallajökull, the disruption was minimal. The improved system worked. Eurocontrol estimates that if the 2010 eruption happened today, flight cancellations would be cut in half. But here's the most unexpected twist. Iceland turned its global humiliation into economic gold. The country's tourism board launched a brilliant campaign called Inspired by Iceland, reframing the narrative from disaster to adventure. Tourist arrivals surged by 30% in the following years, transforming tourism into the nation's largest industry. A natural disaster became a marketing masterpiece. Which scenario terrifies you most? A massive volcanic eruption that destroys everything in its path, or the revelation that our entire modern world can be paralyzed by something as simple as invisible dust? Let me know in the comments. The threads we all hang by. Here's the paradigm shift that should keep you awake at night. Eyjafjallajökull was just a preview. Iceland sits on one of the most volcanically active regions on Earth, with eruptions happening every 3 to 6 years on average. The recent awakening of the Reykjanes Peninsula after 800 years of dormancy proves that we can never predict when the next crisis will hit. But the real terror isn't the volcanoes themselves, it's what they reveal about our world. We've built a civilization of unprecedented complexity and connectivity, but we've also created unprecedented vulnerability. The same systems that give us next-day delivery and instant global communication can be brought to their knees by events happening on the other side of the planet. The historical record is even more chilling. In 1783, Iceland's Laki eruption didn't just disrupt transportation, it altered global climate, triggered famines across Europe, and may have contributed to the conditions that sparked the French Revolution. Scientists estimate that a similar gas-rich eruption today could cause over 140,000 premature deaths in Europe alone from air pollution. What this means for you, the thread holding our connected world together is far thinner than we pretend. Your supply chains, your travel plans, your ability to communicate with loved ones, all of it depends on systems with single points of failure we rarely think about. But there's hope in the darkness. The 2010 crisis taught us that when the unthinkable happens, we can adapt, innovate, and emerge stronger. The key is recognizing our vulnerabilities before they become catastrophes. Your mission: subscribe to the Disaster Research Notes channel and watch their other videos. In our interconnected world, knowledge isn't just power, it's survival. The insights you gain could protect not only yourself, but your community when the next invisible disaster strikes. Because the question isn't whether another Eyjafjallajökull will happen. The question is, will we be ready? Remember, true resilience comes from understanding that our greatest strengths can also be our greatest weaknesses. Equip yourself with knowledge and help others do the same. The next thread to break could be closer than you think.